Jets safety Jamal Adams came closer to being traded than anyone would have imagined earlier this week, and in the aftermath of the day that ultimately resulted in no trade for Jamal Adams, he took to Twitter to say that any reports of me asking to be traded from the New York Jets are completely false. Then he said this at the end of the week last week. I sat down with the GM and Coach Gase and told them I want to be here in New York. I was told yesterday by my agent that the GM then went behind my back and shopped me around to teams even after I asked him to keep me here. Crazy business. I'll tell you what, the agent needs to be criticized here if the truth isn't that there was a shopping around of Jamal Adams.
Agreed.
But simply teams were calling, because that is a huge difference.
There is a
that
huge
seemed
difference.
to be lost on the player, Chris.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I give you, that's exactly where I wanted to start. You know, I mean, it's all right now we're taking Jamal Adams' side of the story, and I get where he could be frustrated here, but, you know, there is a difference if you're an organization and you're calling teams going, hey, Jamal Adams is available. Jamal Adams is available. Then to the other side of that, where teams are going, hey, is there anybody on your team? Hey, is Jamal Adams, maybe can we get him? Is there a price? And there's a difference there, because then, Douglas, the GM of the Jets, just sits there and goes, well, no, he's not really available, but what are you willing to offer? And there's a totally big difference between, one and the other there, is what I'm trying to say as I mumble through my words there.
And Joe Douglas himself, the Jets GM, was on ESPN Radio in New York, and he responded to this tweet from Jamal Adams accusing him of actively shopping the Jets safety. Here's Joe Douglas.
We did not make any calls on Jamal. Teams called us. And so teams had been calling us ever since, there was a social media issue a few weeks back. My message was clear that Jamal was an absolute stud, and we're not interested in moving him. Teams continue to call. I was always taught where I'm from, if a team calls, you listen to what they have to say. At the end of the day, teams called on a lot of our players, and at the end of the day today, we felt like the value that was offered for any player didn't meet or exceed the value that we have for that player as a New York Jet.
That's the absolute truth, but it does give you an idea, Chris, and I said this earlier on the radio side, that these players really are just commodities. That you have a guy on your roster, and we love this guy, and he's fine until you offer us enough that it justifies surrendering the contract and saying farewell forever to the player, and that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
But for the Jets, the analysis was simple. No one offered enough to get them to say, okay, we will trade Jamal Adams. But as Joe Douglas tells it, the Jets weren't actively shopping Jamal Adams. And the social media issue he referred to, that was in the aftermath of the Week 2 Monday night game against the Browns. Remember, Adams got benched at one point during the game.
Right.
He went to Instagram and he removed all references to the Jets from his social media page, and that sparked some ideas that maybe he wanted out. And that would be the opening, if you're interested in Jamal Adams, to call the Jets and say, hey, if this guy wants out and you want to make that happen, here's what we're willing to do. So I can understand why, when you combine that with the fact that the Jets aren't very good, so they would be sellers at the trade deadline, that's how we get to this point. It doesn't mean the Jets were trying to unload Jamal Adams.
Exactly right. For all of us out there, and even teams, Jamal Adams he's an intense, emotional young football player who's, maybe said some things on radio and Twitter that maybe he shouldn't have. And I think that is, the perception of him, I think, through the league was, maybe he's not happy with the Jets. Maybe he wants to get out of there. But certainly, Joe Douglas, Adam Gase, the one thing I'll say about both of those guys, and I know Adam, I don't know Joe Douglas all that well, but know a lot of people that know him. And the one thing you know about Adam, and really anybody that's around him and Coach Gase, is just the fact that they're not BSers. I mean, they lay it on the line. I mean, we just saw earlier in one of our pods, Adam Gase saying, hey, the results are what they are right now. We're not good, and I'm not doing a good job because we only have one win. He'll take it on the chin like a true champ. And, I can't fault them for just at least listening to offers and things like that. Now, you got to blow them out of the water, because Jamal Adams is – you could argue Jamal Adams is the best safety in football. He's certainly in that conversation. But they took some calls. They listened to what people have to say, and maybe if the team offered him 2 first-round picks or something like that, maybe they would have done it. But that was not offered, and for that, they keep the safety who will be a superstar for a long, long time here in New York.
Cowboys reportedly offered a first-round pick and an early third-day pick, a fourth or a fifth rounder for Adams. The Jets rejected that. And the Ravens reportedly were in contact and actively pursuing Jamal Adams. And there's a thought that maybe after the season, the Ravens will try again. And you can keep trying all you want until you offer the Jets enough to get them to say, we'll do it. They're not going to do it. And why would you trade Jamal Adams? Well, again, if you can get a great haul of draft picks in return and you decide it's fair value, then you do it. And also, Chris, there's just been enough flashpoints from Jamal Adams over the past few years. Remember, it seemed like Todd Bowles had to talk to him every other week in 2018, and Adam Gase has gotten that part of it under control. It doesn't seem like Jamal Adams is saying things that are unfortunate and problematic for the team, but nobody knows him better than the Jets. And the mere fact that they would even have those conversations and entertain those offers, it tells you that at some point they recognize maybe he's not somebody who needs to be with this franchise over the long haul. Maybe he's not a guy to build around because of the fact that he is a little temperamental, that he does, we've played at the very top of the TV segment as the hour began, Le'Veon Bell talking about how the Jets are a work in progress and it's going to take time. Jamal Adams was basically despondent after they lost to the Jaguars on Sunday, and maybe they're thinking, look, he's a great player, but the culture we're trying to build isn't somebody who's going to have highs that are too high and lows that are too low, but somebody who's more even-keeled and understands that this really is a process. I'm just trying to process why they would even entertain these discussions, and it may be at some level they were kind of hoping they would be made an offer they can't refuse.
Well, maybe, we don't know that. Either way, they're listening to it. I mean, you're right about Jamal Adams. I do think he's got to dial back, some of the emotional outbursts. I love watching him play. I think he's a great dude. He's got great energy. I've been around him a few times, and, I mean, you could see how he's the perfect guy to be safety, a strong safety in the NFL. Yeah, even when you're just around him in a normal everyday setting, he's intense, and you could tell he loves football. But, yeah, he's got to worry about maybe crossing that line too much to where it becomes, a little bit of the highs are too high, the lows are too low to where it affects the locker room. I don't think the Jets ultimately wanted to trade him. The Jets don't have that many good players, and you could argue he's maybe the best player on the team. And if you want to rebuild, you'd like to keep those guys around, especially when they're very young still, like Adams is.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.